Hello, everyone. Welcome to YFFR On Air. I'm Olivia Mead, founder, CEO, lady boss, and with me is Eric Brenneman. He's president of Yoga for First Responders, and he's also Mr. Lady Boss, my husband.
I'll take first. I'll take first, lady boss.
First husband.
Can I be
He's YFFR's first
first husband boss?
And yeah, this is it was a really fun episode to record because we get to show off. We get to show off YFFR, and we cannot wait for you to listen to the amazing news and announcement we give you in this episode. As I mentioned, Eric and I are married, and you may hear, and we have a child, and you may hear her in the episode as she woke up from her nap time in the middle of the episode. So just know if you hear her, we were watching her on the monitor. She is safe. She is well.
No infants were harmed, or no toddlers were harmed in this episode. I do have her on my monitor in this.
No toddlers. Yeah, no toddlers were harmed in the making of this podcast. But listen, this is probably the most exciting podcast to date. This is one you're going to want to save. This is one you're going to want to share. So download and save it now so you can start passing it on to everyone, and you will see why. So please enjoy. Welcome to Yoga for First Responders On Air, where we break down yoga, neuroscience, resilience, and public safety in a manner that's authentic, educational, and most importantly, entertaining and lighthearted. I'm YFFR's founder, Olivia Mead. As a yoga instructor and neuroscience enthusiast, I'm passionate about supporting first responders and anyone looking to improve their overall human performance. Each week, we'll dive into a new topic and often bring on expert guests to share their insights and experiences. But we'll also keep it real and share our own stories and struggles along the way. So whether you're a first responder or seeking to master the science of mental and physical resilience, this podcast is your ultimate guide to triumph over life's challenges with unbreakable strength and unwavering fortitude. By pressing play, your training has begun. Okay, we're here. We're ready to go. It is the afternoon, and although it is a holiday, it's Juneteenth today when we're recording, we're still not having an afternoon cocktail for this. This is sober on air.
Yeah, because we just went on a 4-hour adventure to find peach milkshakes.
Was it worth it though?
They were pretty damn good. Turns out that it was literally a wild goose chase across Albuquerque, thinking that they were at Bob's hamburger shop. Turns out that's not accurate.
This is what happened. So we started off the morning at 10:30 a.m. doing a swim lesson with our toddler, which was great. She's starting to kick on her own. It was awesome. It is June in Albuquerque, swim lessons. I mean, this is like ultimate summer, right? It's an ultimate summer experience. And as we drove to our next errand, I saw a sign that said peach summer milkshakes. And I was like, hell yes.
Peach. A flash of peach as we were flying by.
I just
don't know what restaurant, just peach.
Well, I saw a bee, and I also had this thinking like, oh, local, like kind of old school hamburger joint. So then later down the road, I saw Bob's Burgers and made the association that I had seen a sign for peach milkshakes at Bob's Burgers. So the first Bob's Burgers we went to was closed. And then I was like, we're going to another one. We went to another one. No. We've come this far. Went to another one, and I said, hey, I didn't see it on the menu. So I was like, maybe it's a secret menu. So I was like, hey, can I have a peach milkshake, or did I make that up? She was like, you definitely made that up. We don't have any dairy or any like milk.
We don't even have ice cream here.
Yeah, we don't have any ice cream. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know where I saw it. So then Eric looked up a Chick-fil-A, and I was like, I guess it's at Chick-fil-A. And it was a peach milkshake, wasn't Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, my Google search was fast food restaurant peach milkshake, because like that was what I was going off of. Like, right. And Chick-fil-A popped up.
It was delicious.
Yeah.
Took us forever to get through that damn drive-through, but we got it. It was delicious. And then as we were driving home finally, I saw the sign and it was for Blake's Lotta Burger, which is a New Mexico classic burger place. So that just means that next week we're going to have the peach milkshake there.
Yeah, I guess so. Like we turned a 30-minute swim lesson into a 4-hour adventure.
It's 2 p.m. It's 2
Yeah.
p.m. and we're finally back home.
Lessons at 9:45 a.m.
I know.
So if there was anybody at home that cared about us, they'd be like, "Where the hell have you been?" Like,
it's like after
no joke, we went to swim lessons and a fast food restaurant. Now, to be fair, we did stop at Sam's Club and Walmart in there to pick up a couple of things for one of the other businesses that we run, and we've failed at both of those. Like slow checkout lines at both. Like our last 4 or 5 hours was literally a comedy of errors. It feels like the universe was like, y'all just need to go home. Like
I thought
you've got stuff to do. Like go home.
You need to slow down. Like I'm going to put you're choosing the line with 2 people. You think it's going to go faster. Well, those 2 people are going to be the most challenging customers ever and will not get through the checkout line. So I think the universe is like, hey, it's summer. There's peach milkshakes in the world. Just slow down, man.
I'm also wondering if we need to readjust to Albuquerque speed. Like if we just need to slow it down a little bit here. I don't know. I mean, I don't know so far. We've been here for 10 days.
There's a lot of weed here, I've noticed. And maybe it's making everyone go slower.
Maybe. I actually I read the other day that cannabis has taken over alcohol as the number 1 used recreational drug. Or did we hear that on Bill Maher? Maybe.
Maybe it was from
yeah, but kind of interesting that I'm sticking with. I'll be honest. I'm sticking with my whiskeys.
Yeah, I'm a whiskey gal myself.
Yeah, I'm not going to go hunting the marijuana, the cannabis, whatever you want to call it. So,
it's so funny we're having this conversation about milkshakes and cannabis and whiskey when we're actually we're about to talk about something like we're talking about science right now. Like we're about to drop some pretty amazing research, science backed published papers. And I love how we're starting off with peach milkshakes and weed, but we have something really important to say. This is actually probably the most exciting and fulfilling episode of On Air ever because of what we're about to tell you guys. And if you've seen our newsletter already, then the cat's already out of the bag, but we're going to talk it through a little bit. So I'm proud to announce the publication of YFFR's second clinical research study, published peer-reviewed paper. The first one was a pilot study that actually led then to the funding to do this second sort of more in-depth one. So I want to start by reading the findings and we'll kind of go into what this all looked like and how this came to be.
Yeah, this is a big deal. Like we always use other people's research,
right.
Can point to kind of sister studies that is great and have very good findings and very good research on this topic of what we do. But to have research on our specific protocol, on YFFR protocol, man, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. So yeah, sit back, enjoy, take notes, because and honestly, folks, share this episode. This is the kind of episode that will change the trajectory of this organization. I firmly believe that because that's why we went through these research studies.
And listen, data and numbers don't lie. So anyone can come up with excuses for not to do yoga or mindfulness or breathwork stuff, but if they come up with those excuses in the face of this information, then that's their fault. Then the lives, the resilience, the mental health of their personnel is now on their shoulders because of not making a decision based on this research.
Right.
What I would say would be the right decision and implementation. So Yeah, so as Eric said, there is a lot of research on yoga in general, and there is quite a bit of research on yoga and how helpful it is for military and veterans. But as you will see, what I'm about to read in these findings and these impact statements is that we are the first to have a clinical research study of a mind body training for first responders. So here were the results. Results, colon. At post intervention, so intervention, by the way, guys, means the yoga program. So there were two groups. The intervention group are the people who got the yoga training. The control group did not. And then they both were evaluated. At post intervention, the intervention group, the ones who got the yoga, had significantly reduced symptoms of PTSD compared to the control group. Another thing I want to say is there was quite a high statistic, actually, or high number of folks, active duty, those who participated in the study, that had post-traumatic stress symptoms. So just take that in a little bit too, that there are folks out there working and actively struggling with this injury.
I mean, I think that shows how much the stigma weighs around, like that we can't ask for help in the public safety world. The fact that you have enough self-reported symptomology that you could be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. That's not sub-threshold. Like, that's diagnosable post-traumatic stress. Like, that's a big deal. And I want you to repeat the sentence you just read, because that's the mic drop moment. Like, that one sentence should be all we ever need, like, to go forth and carry on. So read that sentence again, because that's just a mind-blowing sentence.
So the results showed that at post-intervention, so once the yoga training was complete, the intervention group had significantly reduced PTSD symptoms compared to the control group. So those who participated in our program had a significant reduction in their PTSD symptoms. The intervention group had significant improvement. So this is another element. So we have a decrease in post-traumatic stress symptoms, and the intervention group had significant improvements in cognitive reappraisal and resilience at post-intervention compared to the control group, which was sustained at 3 months. So they did another evaluation 3 months later, and those findings remained. So cognitive reappraisal is your change of thinking, basically your ability to change your mindset. And as we've already known, and research has already shown, that how you think about stress or how you think about the circumstance in front of you is going to change your chemical reaction to it. It is going to change whether you come out of that situation with post-traumatic stress versus post-traumatic growth. So the fact that the intervention group also had an improved ability to have a cognitive reappraisal improved their resilience, as it showed. And that was sustained 3 months later.
My goodness. Like, those two things combined is earth-shattering. Yeah. Like, these are the red lights that are blaring. Like, if we truly care about mental health and wellness and the resilience of our public safety people in North America, let alone around the world, this study should be on every single commanding officer's desk today. Like, so they can see, like, that we have an answer. There is an answer to these problems. It may not be the answer you want. You may not be able to do check the box training once a year. You may actually have to implement training like every other basic skill and basic training that we do, but there is an answer. And so that now is, everybody who's hearing this, share this, because it's their job to turn it down at this point, because
it's on their responsibility now, you know. And this, we're just getting started with this. So conclusions, the workplace delivered, this is another important point. This is a workplace delivered intervention, which was part of the intervention, and part of YFFR's protocol is we go to them. We don't say, hey, we're offering yoga once a week at a studio, which is fine. And this is great. That's nothing bad about that. But our approach is to implement it into their job and their training schedule. So that was part of the intervention itself was a workplace delivered intervention, shows potential in preventing the development of PTSD in first responders. And that's going to continue in a moment. That's this point. So this is the statement I was talking about before. This is the first study to provide evidence for a tactical mind-body resilience training program in reducing symptoms of PTSD in the short term, as well as for improving adaptive strategies in active first responders. So we are the first to be able to show that an improvement in strategies. So some people call those coping mechanisms. I don't like that phrase because we shouldn't be coping. We should be processing, changing, evolving from it. So adaptive strategies, I like how they put that. So we're the first study to show that. Sustain, now this was even cooler. So Eric mentioned subthreshold earlier. Subthreshold means you're not at the diagnosable stage of post-traumatic stress, but you are on your way. You are experiencing, go ahead.
Yeah, which every first responder would be in this category, I would argue. Like I can't anecdotally say that. Like I can't empirically say that, I suppose. But just knowing the jobs that our men and women are doing on a daily basis, like everybody that's riding a truck, in a squad car, in an ambulance, sitting at a dispatch pod is exposed to enough trauma day in and day out. I would argue they're probably at a subthreshold level of PTSD.
And I'll tell you why, too, is because even if you haven't experienced something in your career yet that is big, bad, critical incident, where the real issue comes in, where the real negative impact on your nervous system comes in, is the knowing every day you could and always being on alert for that to happen, which we're actually built, you first responders are trained for, and we as humans are built for handling the big bad thing. We get into flow. You guys are trained for it. You do the job. Where the injury comes in is that accumulation of the mild level of stress, or oh gosh, I'm forgetting how Stephen Kotler puts it.
I mean, it's the cumulative load of stress. Like it's the day in and day out of the tapping and chipping away against the nervous system, just over and over and over again. The body's terrible to deal with that.
Yeah, like the tones drop. What is it? What am I about to see? So that's
dealing with admin, dealing with coworkers, dealing with the citizenry. Like think about it. It's all this stuff that makes your literally a typical Tuesday. Your nervous system's actually terrible at putting itself back together after that, day after day after day after day after day.
And so that weakens the nervous system. It puts you at a deficit. So then when the big bad critical incident does happen, yes, you get the job done, but the nervous system has been weakened. So its normal functionality of being able to heal from that, you're not able to, and you're not even given the time, because guess what? You have another call to go on afterwards. So you're not even given the time, capacity, or tools to heal from it. And eventually, not only do you personally start to feel the effects of it, but your job performance is going to go down as well. So subthreshold, by just going into this job, you're subthreshold because you are on alert at all times. So that's what that means. And so to continue, it says, okay, sustained improvements of PTSD symptoms for individuals with subthreshold PTSD show further potential for this training as a preventative intervention in reducing the future risk of PTSD among first responders. That was the element that our research partners, so our research partners is University of New South Wales and the Black Dog Institute in Sydney, Australia, specifically Leona Tan, PhD, Dr. Tan, who is one of our instructors as well. She was our research partner. And this was the element they were most excited about, was there was this huge drop of post-traumatic stress symptoms in those sub-thresholds for being diagnosable. And it's sustained 3 months later. This means that if you are looking for, which we all are, a proactive tool, like an inoculation, a preventative tool, this is it. This is it. So the problem that we have faced for years, since the beginning of helpers in the community, and the high levels of stress-based health issues, from simple as chronic injuries to all the way to suicide. Here we go. We found the answer, and we can say that with our whole chest.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not by accident that yoga has stuck around for 5,000 plus years. Like, we're not the first people to have hard lives. Obviously, arguably much harder lives when there's no electricity, heat, water, things like that happening. And so the fact that yoga established 5,000 years ago and has carried through and hasn't faded away at some point throughout history shows that the damn thing works. And so what Olivia just read to you, and knowing that this has been around for 5,000 years, if you're saying, I don't have a yoga body, I can't touch my toes, we don't care. We only work with public safety people. Like, the evidence is here at this point to at least give it a shot. There's no excuse to not give it a shot. I mean, because what we're doing right now in public safety is not working. Arguably, our maladaptive strategies are what we typically try. We're not trying good strategies. We're not trying improving adaptive strategies. Quite frankly, we default to maladaptive, bad adaptive behaviors, drinking, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever it is. Like, we default to those to numb the pain. Like, you don't have to numb the pain anymore. Like, there's a tool out there that you can implement today. And arguably, once we teach you, it's free. Like, a free tool that you could use day in and day out for the rest of your life, that can change your life forever. Like,
and it's about choosing your heart, right? Because, like, having a drink, which we just talked about, we like our whiskey too. And is that easier to pour a glass and like numb out for a bit? Sure. But then your hard is that you will never actually find peace or balance or health or anything like that. Or you could decide to put in consistent time. Doesn't even have to be that long. You can do a breathwork technique in 3 minutes, but try to, break the habit, start to actually do this training, feel the feelings of inadequacy that everyone feels when they're trying something new, and then have the relief and the tool you need for your own empowerment. So it's choosing your hard. And I know by hearing this, you still may not be ready to start it tomorrow, but maybe in 2 weeks you'll be ready. Maybe in 2 months you'll be ready. So speaking of, if folks are hearing this for the first time and thinking like, how is stretching your hamstrings leading to these amazing results? Let's talk about what the intervention actually looked like. What was being studied and researched. So the curriculum, I built a 16 class curriculum. And the way I built it obviously is has an instructional design that builds on itself. So there are 16 classes, and I divided them up into 4 modules. And those modules were, the first 4 classes were foundation. So we talked about foundational elements. The second 4 classes were, the themes were all about processing stress, how to process stress. The next 4 classes were how to build your resilience. So basically turning that stress into, recycling it into resilience. And then the final 4 classes were connecting this work to your job in order to enhance performance. So we worked on air management, we worked on proprioception, we worked on decision making. And then each of the 4 classes in those modules, I also built that the first class was new techniques, breaking down techniques, workshopping it, making sure everyone knew exactly what we're trying to get to, right? Going nice and slow. The second one was then taking those techniques and kind of really turning on the heat, turning on the fire, building some sweat, upping the stress of the training itself through, some physical exertion. The third one was focused primarily on breath work and neurological reset, which is our version of meditation and mindfulness. And then the fourth class was always removing the armor, which is our version of myofascial release. So that's how I, behind the scenes, was intelligently building this curriculum. We had 5 different departments involved. And in those departments, so there was 4 fire departments and 1 police department. And then it was randomized which shift for fire departments, which shift got the intervention. So we did it by shift. And we did it by shift just to be able to get a good schedule going. And which of those shifts were the control group. And then we went for it. So Eric, you taught we had 3 instructors, you, me, and Amanda, and we each kind of had our home departments and then would cover for each other if we needed. So my home department was Colorado Springs Fire, and yours was Castle Rock Fire Department, and then we kind of shared Castle Rock Police among the 3 of us. And then Amanda had Fort Collins and Aurora.
Yep.
So we did that. And then just recently we finished the control group. So 2 years later, the control group got the exact same, protocol, just so all of those participants could be able to experience it as well. The last class, we all did a little interview with our students and just got some feedback. So what are some of the things that you heard from your students when you did that little interview with them at the final class?
Yeah, I had one officer in particular that really opened up and shared, and he's actually one of our instructors now. He actually ended up coming to instructor school and is now teaching this protocol, which is super cool that there was so much impact there that he chose to end up becoming an instructor. But his testimonial was powerful because he said that the number one takeaway that he received was from his partner, his wife. Said that he's actually a better partner at home, like less reactive, more present with her and with their kids. Like, to me, that's the win. Like, do we do this for work purposes, for job enhancement? Mm-hmm. But if you can be a better partner at home, like think about the statistics of high divorce rates, or at least high marital strife amongst public safety. Like, if we can have people say, my spouse recognized that I was more present and a better partner at home, great, we've already won. But then he goes on to say that he was able to use breath work techniques that he learned in this class to de-escalate a situation where there was a teenage girl in her home, like having a massive anxiety panic attack and just destroying the parents' home. And typically in that situation, it would have been getting control of that girl, handcuffing her, and basically yanking her out of her parents' house and putting her in the back of a patrol car, and away they go. And so then think about like the trauma that instills on that young woman for the rest of her life, and what she sees about law enforcement, thinks about the cops. Oh, these are the people that ripped me out of my parents' house, and on down the line. But instead he was able to use a de-escalation technique of breath work and noticing that she was basically in an amygdala hijack, and worked her out of that using the techniques that he had learned in these classes, and got it to the point where this young woman was able to walk out of her parents' house on her own. She still went in the back of the patrol car, but not necessarily in handcuffs, walked out on her own accord. Yes, right? And so think about how different she now has this outlook of law enforcement for the rest of her life. The fact that they were able to work with her and talk with her and de-escalate the situation rather than escalating it. Right. And so that testimonial is like huge in 2 aspects, because that shows that I'm better at home and I'm better at work by utilizing the tools that I'm learning. Like that's exactly what we'd hope for. Oh, and by the way, you have reduced symptoms of post-traumatic stress symptomology at the same time. Like, that's a powerful trifecta.
It's helping yourself, helping the community, helping your family. Like 3 things. And what's the common thing that all of those 3 things have share and have in common is your own brain and nervous system. Your brain and nervous system show up for yourself. We're often in battle with ourselves because of that. your brain and nervous system show up on scene to incidents, and your brain and nervous system is interacting with your family and your spouse. So yet there has been absolutely no training, no formal, structured, disciplined training for our own brain and nervous system, the most powerful, intricate, interesting, um, you know, motherboard that we have. We're just letting it, letting it loose, letting it fly. And I mean, no wonder it just watch the news. Watch the news for 5 minutes and you will see, you'll be able to identify how out of control someone's brain and nervous system actually is. So what the yoga techniques are doing is mastering your own system. You will have mastery over your mind, mastery over your nervous system, mastery over your physical body, mastery over your brain. So that is what yoga is teaching. And because all of us can relate to our body first, it's the most tangible thing we can, we have. As yoga has gone through the game of telephone and come to the very egocentric minds of the West, we latched on to the physical part of it, latched on to the results of that yoga body, that people think of, quote unquote. And that became the selling point of yoga, in the West. So what we're doing with YFFR is we're taking it back to its original roots, which still has the physical benefits part of it, but that's just one of, many arms of what we're doing. And we tailored it to be job specific and culturally appropriate for first responders in order to make it a, workplace intervention. So that are these most recent results. We were supposed to do this in 2020.
Yeah.
And I think I don't have to tell everyone why we couldn't do it in 2020.
Not in person anyway. Here's the caveat. Yeah, right.
Person. So we pivoted and we put together a 6-week online training and we decided to do it that way. And that went under a clinical study, a pilot study, and it yielded very similar results. Now, the big difference was that when it was very hands off, and you can actually purchase this course right now if you'd like. So, unlike in person where, I'm there, we're watching, there's this commitment, there's this community aspect, doing any online training is just going to be more challenging. So we had, not a full completion rate. But for everyone who did complete those 6 weeks, they also had a significant reduction in post-traumatic stress symptoms, an increase in or improvement in their mindset around stress. So it showed this potential, and basically the study was like, yes, this is feasible. We see this potential. Let's put it in person now. And then in person continued to show that impact in a more significant way. So we do have those 2 studies, one online, one in person.
Yeah. And so the secondary outcome from that 6-week online course, which, as you said, is available for purchase today from an individual level or from a department level. And yes, I'm going to say that you can buy that because once again, we need to start putting tools into place that can change the trajectory of public safety. The secondary outcome showed a significant improvement in the adaptive cognitive strategy of the stress mindset. That's a lot of big words to say that we changed their perception of stress. Like you already alluded to it in the second study. So this is going back and talking about the first study. So we have 2 studies that say the same thing now, that our protocol will change the adaptive cognitive strategy of stress mindset. Go and read Dr. Kelly McGonigal's Upside of Stress. Find TED Talks from from Tom Chabey, learning about the difference between challenge and threat. Like that's what we are doing with yoga for first responders. It's not just about stretching and touching your toes. I'm proud to say that we've built a really special sauce of a product. Like this is different than going to a local yoga studio. This is different than bringing a yoga teacher into your fire department or police department. I'm sure you've all tried that. People have tried that at this point and it's not working because guess what? We are the specialized tool for the specialized job. And so it's not just yoga. We're rooted in traditional hatha yoga. We have added other elements into it, including some cognitive behavioral therapy, which allows us to change the cognitive strategies. You don't get changes in cognitive strategies just by stretching. Like, let's be real. You don't get that. And so YFFR is a special sauce, a specialized protocol. And so if you want that, it has to be through YFFR. You will not get that by going and hiring your own local yoga teacher in. I'm adamant about that. Like, you wouldn't set a fee. I say this, like, put it to the ridiculous. You wouldn't set a femur fracture with a sledgehammer. Like, everybody who's now thinking about, like, oh, I've seen a femur fracture, and you're right, I wouldn't reset that break with a sledgehammer. You'd use a specialized tool for that job. YFFR, Yoga for First Responders, is the specialized tool. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. Like, if you want the best for your agency or for your personnel, this is it. We've recently come across folks that have said, oh, what about this app? Another app in the marketplace that's solely about mobility. Not the same. The goals are completely different. You will find increased mobility from YFFR, but again, the key is changing the cognitive strategies of stress mindsets, reducing post-traumatic stress symptomology. Those other apps, those other teachers, they can't say that.
Right.
They cannot. They may help your officers stretch better or not get injured from strains and sprains. That's cool. But if you care about their long-term longevity of that post-traumatic stress symptomology and making sure that they have long, healthy careers after retirement and they're not off the job because of a health and wellness situation or a mental health situation or sprains or strains on that matter, we're the specialized tool. I'm calling it out. And secondly, we're a nonprofit. Like, I'm fired up because we're a nonprofit. And quite frankly, folks, we charge people for our services solely because we don't have the donations rolling in. So if you care about this stuff, give it to your agencies, let them know about the research studies, share it to your best friends and say, hey, y'all need to step up and give this organization $5. Like, it's time. Like, this is time to blow this thing up.
Seriously, with the thank you for saying everything you said. I couldn't have said it better. And it's absolutely true. We have the data, we have anecdotes, we have testimonials, we have people literally saying this saved their lives. And it's time that everyone who says they support first responders, from individual community members to corporations, to back this up, financially for us so we can get it out to everyone who needs it. Even before that is happening, we have several ways to take advantage of this now. We have an app called YFFR On Demand. You can find it through our website or look it up through the app stores. We have free resources on there. You don't even have to buy a subscription, but a subscription is so cheap that you could, you might as well buy the subscription and get.
I mean, we damn near spent a year's worth subscription of YFFR University for Chick-fil-A today for lunch. Like, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. Like, a year's worth of subscription for YFFR On Demand is $48. We spent $32 at Chick-fil-A for lunch today.
We didn't get fries. If we had gotten fries, then it would have been, or if we gotten bigger milkshakes. But seriously, that's so fun. It's so funny because you'll drop fucking $50 at McDonald's, but then when it comes to a year-long training app that is proven to improve your health and wellness and resilience, and that I'm going to scratch my head about if I can afford it. Like, come on. So we have free resources, subscriptions totally achievable. Okay. We also have YFFR University. You can also get that through our website. It's our online courses. The 6-week course that went under that pilot study is on there. It's called Online Tactical Resilience Training, right? OTRT. Yeah. So that's there for purchase. There is a $5 course basically. Then there's very expensive courses that are intros to yoga for first responders, gives you the foundational elements that you need. That's online. That's digital. There is also in-person training with one of our 100 of instructors across the country. So go to our teacher finder map on our website, find a local instructor. If you don't have one, send yourself to instructor school. You don't need any yoga experience. Come to our in-person 5-day intensive instructor school and become an instructor, or just go through the 5-day intensive to know what you're doing and be your own instructor. There is more coming down the pipeline with services that we offer. So definitely be part of our newsletter if you are not already, and keep up with us on social media. There is, I mean, what's happening is changing the trajectory, as Eric said, and we want you to be part of it for yourself and for your community.
Right. It's so powerful, and it's so easy. And we have fought and fought and fought. I mean, this organization has been in existence for 10 years at this point, plus, like as a standalone organization for 8. And so there are people out there now that are starting to see this, starting to capitalize, starting to move into this space because like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. We're not the next big thing. Like, we've been here. We've established ourselves. We work with literally tens of thousands of public safety folks every single year and have been doing it for over a decade at this point. Like, this organization has established itself and separated itself from everybody else in the marketplace. And so this is it.
There's no reason to do anything else but this. Like, even if you're not in public safety, we work with military, we work with healthcare professionals, and so many people say, this is just great for people in general. You should call it yoga for people. And I'm like, yeah, it's just yoga. We're just bringing it back to what it's originally meant for and the original discipline. So there's no reason to go anywhere else but here, and we have everything you need. And if you're not finding something you need, you write us an email. We'll get something for you. info@yogaforfirstresponders.org. As I'm sure you can hear in our voices, like, our whole team is so thrilled about this because we knew the whole time, and now we have data to show it along with all of the anecdotal evidence, and we can finally say the quiet thing out loud, which is, we're the best, we make the biggest impact, the end, period.
Right. Yeah. And it's probably why we drink during our episodes. I don't know, to keep us a little bit tempered.
I know. You think that this is like us drinking, like, no, this is us normal. We drink so that we just act, exactly, more tempered.
But it's so important, like, and you said it too, it's not just we are for yoga for first responders, but if you have a life circumstance, which we all do, where life is hard, we talk about it every day ourselves, working through our own personal shit. Like, we put these tools in place because neither one of us are riding the truck. I'm not riding the truck anymore. You have been outside of those academies that you took for a long, long time. Like, but life is still really fucking hard. Like, if we want to be honest, like, it continues to just push you down and push you down and push you down. And if you don't have tools like this, like, we look around and like, we teach this stuff. We're arguably the leaders and expertise on this. And yet we look around and like, how is everybody else surviving in this world? And arguably they're not. I mean, there's health and wellness crises bubbling up around the world. Suicide is going up off the chart, not only in public safety, but in the general population. Like, we're drinking more, using weed more than drinking at this point. I mean, we're numbing out on social media and TV. Like, we're not surviving. We are not thriving as a species. And so this is a tool to literally, Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman says it best, and we use this quote all the time. I have it pulled up on my screen because I knew it was going to be pertinent at some point. It says, yoga, Zen, and the martial arts may have some mystical connotations, but when you strip away the mysticism, all that is left is a simple process that allows you to gain conscious control over your unconscious nervous system, and then puts it to work for you. Like, I love how you say it, Olivia, and the fact that we are driving this incredible sports car, but we've never been given the operational manual, the owner's manual on how to actually run the damn thing. Right. And so what we teach is literally how to put your hands back on the steering wheel, your feet back on the gas and brake pedals, your hand back on the gear shift, so that you can actually steer, maneuver, speed up, slow down your body, mind, and nervous system the way you want it to, versus the way it's going to run absolutely haywire if you don't get it under control. And you have all felt it running haywire at this point. You all have. And I say that because I know that you and I have felt that. Like, we fight that feeling or work with that feeling on a daily basis because of what life gives us. And thank God we have the tools that we've teach others to help us navigate those waters. So I don't want anybody to be like, oh, these guys have it all figured out. They're better than us. I'll never be to that spot. No, this is a daily work, a daily practice. And the research actually spells that out a little bit, doesn't it?
About the consistency?
Yeah, because after 3 months, folks that didn't
Right.
do the work
Right. Yes. Okay. So that
actually,
was another thing. Yeah. So this came from the preliminary findings, and it may be stated in the research, the actual paper too. But then the preliminary findings, what it also spelled out was, we gave all of our students the app. I mean, everyone who participated in the research study got a year of the app so they could keep going. And it did show, and somehow I wonder if we can link these graphs, in these show notes. We can figure that out. It showed that for those who didn't continue to practice yoga, it did start to creep up, right? All of the symptoms back to where they were. Those who practiced breath work only, or the physical part only, or the meditation part only, each had, were able to sustain the findings a little bit more. But for those who practiced all three elements of yoga at least once per week, had the most significant sustainability of the effects of the program. So, and that's at least once a week. So imagine just doing 20 minutes of this technique once a week, then you are still doing something. You do not need to roll out a yoga mat for 90 minutes every day. You don't even need to have the physical body that you think is needed for yoga. I've taught at the VA systems for people without arms and legs. If you have a nervous system and if you are breathing, you are doing yoga. And if you're not breathing, that means you are an enlightened person and you have gone back to the enlightened world. So if you are alive and you are breathing, yoga is for you.
yeah, absolutely. And somebody will be like, aha, we got you. It's not the silver bullet you think it is. But I'd actually counter back and say, yeah, the symptoms crept back up when they weren't doing this work, because at the end of the day, neuroscience has coined it. We've stolen it. This is autonomic fitness training. We are literally training the autonomic nervous system the same way that you would train your physical body to running on the treadmill or lifting weights or riding your bike. If you stop lifting weights for 3 months, do you think you're going to go back in the gym and lift the same amount of weight? No, of course not. Like nobody associates that. And so if we stop doing work to clean and maintain our mind and nervous system, I would argue, yes, obviously we're going to see symptoms creeping back in, because life doesn't get easier just because you're doing this work. The hits keep coming.
No,
And so you have to continue to do the work to do these practices. And I love that, at least once a week. Like the threshold, the barrier to entry here is so damn low. Like
yeah.
You can find 20 minutes. Like, let's be real. Y'all can find 20 minutes a week.
Well, and think about if you have a really nice car, you still have to maintain it. You still have to give it oil changes. You cover it up with a cover to protect it. Like it does require maintenance. And if you haven't done yoga for a while and you've fallen off the wagon, as soon as you start taking care of it again, you start feeling the, benefits of it again. And here's another thing. We don't solve your stress problem. We don't make your life easier. What we teach you to do is to take the stress and turn it into resilience. So you are smarter, stronger, a better version of yourself because of the shit in your life. So that's what this really is. And there's, for anyone who's listening to this right now, I'm talking to you. There is no excuse. Let's link in the show notes to one of our free on-demand things too, because you just need to scroll on your phone wherever you're listening, click that, and do your practice right now. And then you started. So, and it's the what we offer just goes deeper from there, and we have more for you. So, so we're just so proud to be able to tell you this information. And I want to thank University of New South Wales, Black Dog Institute, Leona Tan. And to go back even further to this origin story, she came to instructor school. She's Australian, I don't know if she's from Sydney, but she lives in Sydney. She was living in the United States at the time, came to our instructor school. And this was in the black and white era of instructor school. This was in mid 2017 or so, when we hadn't done our huge up leveling of our instructional design, but she still saw the benefit, and she chose us to be what she did her PhD on, which is a huge honor in and of itself, let alone the beautiful results that came out of it. So we appreciate you, Leona. She is back in Sydney, and we are working with her now to get an instructor school in Sydney, Australia. See, I said something a while ago, I forgot where it was, where I said, hey, sometimes we accidentally drop like Easter eggs and spoiler alerts in our podcast. And I think, and that's one of them. So, yeah. So thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for being on this journey with us, and give us a $5 donation. Tell your friends. Let's change the world together.
Hey, before we go, I want to remind you that training your mental and physical health is incredibly important, especially for those working in high-stress jobs like first responders.
And if you're interested in learning more about yoga for first responders, visit yogaforfirstresponders.org for our on-demand training app, online course platform, in-person training, and more.
Like this podcast, subscribe, and give us a great review. We are so happy to have you part of the YFFR mission.